Topping today's news, debate begins on the new medical marijuana legislation. 3 shot, 1 killed during an altercation at a nightclub on Nassau Street on Sunday. Bahamas Constitution Party chiming in on 51 years of independence. And the Minister of Sports sing the praises of the men's national basketball team after they narrowly missed making it to the Olympics. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jarino Saunders. This is your JCN Evening News. It is a pleasure to have you join us. This morning in the House of Assembly, lawmakers began the final few legs of bringing the new medical cannabis bills into effect. Dr. Michael Dowell, the Minister of Health and Wellness, began debate on the compendium of bills by quoting Revelations chapter 22, verses 1 to 2, which speaks about using the leaves and the trees for healing of the nations. According to the health minister, the government is convinced the new medical cannabis legislation is very much needed.
I thank God to be alive and as the Minister of Health to move for the first time in this honorable house the compendium of cannabis bills that on passing would bring into force all of the aspects that we have been waiting for treatment, for prescribing medical cannabis, and finally establishing the multi-million-dollar cannabis industry that would be owned, operated, and regulated by Bahamians.
Dr. Dowell says the government has consulted widely and they strongly believe the new legislation covers all of the bases.
As a result of our administration's multi-ministerial approach to cannabis legislation and years of collaboration and research, input from my ministry, the AG's office, religious groups, the Ministry of Agriculture and Marine Resources, the Ministry of National Security, civil society, we believe we have a solid piece of legislation that on passing will govern the use of medical cannabis in our jurisdiction.
Although the minister says they have consulted widely, there are those that feel they have not consulted enough, including the official opposition and the local pharmacy association. While Health Minister Dr. Michael Dowell began his contribution to the debate on the medical marijuana legislation by asking the opposition to fully support the compendium of bills, Opposition Deputy Leader Shannon Dawn Cartwright said while they accept the fact that there are benefits to medical marijuana, they would like to see the government consider a number of recommendations and concerns expressed by the Bahamas Pharmaceutical Association and the Medical Association of the Bahamas.
Through these bills, many Bahamians with conditions such as chronic pain, Alzheimer's, sickle cell disease, autoimmune disease, anxiety, HIV/AIDS, sleep disorders, mental disorders, autism and cancer, and many other conditions will have the opportunity to access the therapeutic advantages of cannabis through prescriptions provided by local healthcare professionals trained in cannabis treatment. It's important to understand, not because you're a medical professional, you should have the right to prescribe unless you go through a training process to understand how to use this drug in the treatment of many chronic diseases.
Mr. Cartwright says the opposition is also concerned that the compendium of bills do not address edible marijuana and is not guaranteed to be fully Bahamian owned, and new regulatory framework for the cultivation of cannabis in the Bahamas is much needed, according to the opposition. A 23-year-old man is in police custody for shooting 2 men, one of whom later died in hospital. Police say it was around 2:30 a.m. on Sunday at a nightclub on Nassau Street near Christie Park, where they met 3 men, ages 42, 28, and 23, suffering from gunshot wounds. Reports suggest that the 23-year-old was engaged in an argument with 2 other men. He left the establishment and returned with a gun and opened fire towards the bar, hitting the 42-year-old and the 28-year-old. They were taken to hospital in private vehicles for medical attention. The 42-year-old was shot to his lower body, while the 28-year-old was shot several times, leading to his demise. The 23-year-old shooter also sustained gunshot injuries to his leg and upper body. He was arrested and taken to hospital. He is listed in stable condition, but he's under police investigation, and he is also in police custody. A firearm containing ammunition was confiscated from the scene. This incident results in the 63rd homicide for the year. Last year we had 110 murders in country. And finally, in this segment, as the Bahamas celebrates its 51st anniversary of the signing of the Bahamas Independence Order in 1973, as put by Ali McIntosh, servant leader of the Bahamas Constitution Party, she says she is grateful but with a heavy heart because the direction the Bahamas is heading in is not the way we should be going. She shared the following analogy.
Even as we give happy Independence Day greetings, there is a mayday call from the deck of our Bahamian ship of state as it has struck a treacherous shoal and a reef, causing destruction to the hull of the ship, and we are critically taking on water. This sad state of affairs has given way to fear and uncertainty by the ordinary Bahamian as to the prognosis of their future under the present regime of both the PLP administration and the official opposition, the FNM.
Mrs. McIntosh says 51 years of what was supposed to be sovereign and democratic governments has been ruined and lost to political cronyism, systemic corruption, and systematic injustice and inequality by some of our law enforcement agencies and politicians. She says this is not what the Founding Fathers intended for the country.
The Founding Fathers' intent for the empowerment of the ordinary Bahamian has been turned upside down because of the abandonment of the rule of law by those governing the nation over the past 2 decades, and the ability of criminal elements to be elected to the halls of Parliament, and further for that element to find ways to continue their influence into all of our honorable institutions, making them corrupted and untenable for good governance.
Mrs. McIntosh said while she has great optimism and hope for the development of the country, says there needs to be a change in the political ideals to more righteous governance in order to shift the paradigm. You're listening to JCN News. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.